So, my name is Michelle Cappel. I am a stage 4 colorectal cancer patient and survivor. I'm also a teacher. I teach fifth grade and I have taught fifth grade for 17 years. So, that is one of my passions. As far as hobbies, I like to work out a lot and spend time with my little doggy. So for years, I had tons of symptoms, but I just didn't know what to attribute them to. I always had chronic constipation and was told because I was on antidepressants that the antidepressants cause constipation. So then the doctors want to give you another pill. So to make your stool, softer and come out. And like, really, if someone would have taken the time at that point to figure out exactly why that was so bad for me, maybe it would have been caught sooner. So that was horrible because looking back on it, you see all these little things that, added up. And I even asked at a conference once, I raised my hand when a doctor was speaking and I asked him, I said, hey, I dealt with this for years and years and years. Could this, cause colorectal cancer? And he said, obviously we don't know 100%. He said, but absolutely. He said, with that stool sitting in your colon, that's bacteria that can form polyps, which can potentially cause, cancer to form. So it's like, gosh, if anyone would have really listened to me years ago, maybe this would have been caught a lot sooner than it was. And then, so fast forward, so I went through that for years and just kind of, I had hemorrhoids here and there. And still, doctors like, oh, well, that's, normal too. People get that because of constipation. I'm like, really? Like, it's like a golf ball sized hemorrhoid. It's like, was very staggering to me. Like, I was in the bathroom. I can remember I was at my parents' house and I'm like, oh my gosh, mom, something's wrong with me. Like, and she's like, oh, well, that's a hemorrhoid. I'm like, it's like the size of a golf ball, though. It's not, just something, just like what you think a hemorrhoid is. Like it was something huge. And again, I was pushed off, and they said, again, because you're on antidepressants, this is another side effect. And I was like, oh, it still's not sitting right with me. But I listened to what doctors say, and I was like, well, they're the experts, they know what they're talking about. So I listened to it all. I took it all in and said, okay, increase your fiber, increase your water, all of those good things, watch my diet, things like that. But it never seemed to really get any better. I was always very bloated as well, and I worked out a lot. So I went to doctors for that as well. And they told me like I was gluten sensitive, which runs in my family. And so they were like, you're borderline celiac. So that's why, you're so bloated all the time. And I'm like, okay, so I'll cut gluten out. Still didn't get any better. Like, okay, I'm trying to do all these things I can do, but something's still not adding up. And then finally, it became a point when it was really serious for me was when I could no longer work out. I just had excruciating pain in my stomach. And at the time, I was doing a lot of spinning classes. In the spinning classes, you bend forward a little bit. So that pressure that was being put onto that area, it hurt. So I would get off the bike. I would go walk around kind of, until it felt a little bit better. Then I would go back to class and, finish my classes. And I really didn't know what it was, but I had a friend in class who was a nurse, and she also had Crohn's disease. So she said, it really sounds like Crohn's, here's the name of my doctor. He's great, blah, blah, blah. And so I was going to make an appointment with him. And then it just got so bad, the pain, it wasn't just working out. It got so bad where I could barely walk. And so I lived in Houston by myself. I don't have family here. So I drove myself to the medical center and walked around. And I literally was bent over walking the streets of Houston trying to decide what ER I was supposed to take myself to. So I ended up in the ER and they did a scan and told me I had kidney stones. that I had multiple kidney stones in both kidneys, which was also something that I chronically had dealt with my whole life. And I was like, no, I've had kidney stones. I've had surgery for kidney stones. I've had lithotripsies done for kidney stones. This isn't the same pain. It's not. And they just brushed me off too. But in going there, I got another doctor, like a little consult. He was a referral. I only saw him for like 5 minutes, but he said, I want you to make an appointment. I'll see you this week. So he saw me, and, I brought him all of my, history. And he was like, to be quite honest, he's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And he was just very matter of fact. He spoke to me like he was speaking to a friend. He was very nice. I just got so blessed to get this doctor that was amazing. And he literally, because I was in tears, because I was like, I don't have weeks. I don't have weeks to see a specialist because I'm in pain now, like right now. And so he handed me his phone and he said, please put your name and number in my phone. And he said, I am going to contact my friends and tell them to get you in immediately. He said, no, you're not going to have to wait weeks. So I was like, okay. So the first doctor, I had all these doctors set up, but the first one I was seeing was a GI doctor because that's what we thought, that's the direction we were headed first. And he too was like, oh, yeah, this really does sound like Crohn's. And so he put me on Linzess to make, me go to the bathroom and, flush my system out. But he said, I still have to schedule a colonoscopy just to confirm. And I was 40 at that time, so I still wasn't old enough to, need a colonoscopy. So we went in for the colonoscopy and came out, and you're kind of, halfway in, halfway out. So they come and they talk to you a little bit. And he just basically said to me, he said, what I saw in you, I wasn't expecting to see. And he said, and when I see it that bad, it's not just in your colon. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't 100% sure. And I was still kind of digesting everything and still weaning off of the medication. And then when we got to the car, my friend said, do you understand what he said to you? And I said, yeah, I think so. I said, I have cancer and it's bad. And she said, yeah, that's what it sounds like. So they, at that point, I still was very, you know, hopeful and assumed that because I was healthy and I worked out and I was young that this was going to be a small little cancer that we were going to just cut out and move on about life, and I was going to make sure I ate better and did all the things I thought I should do. And yeah, that's not how it went at all. So they sent me to Texas Oncology first, and they did some scans themselves, and I met with the oncologist there, and she said that she was recommending chemo first, and then she would do surgery, and I would have a permanent ostomy. And she was giving me anywhere from 6 to 12 months at that point. So at that point, I said, no, I'm going to get a second opinion. And when I looked at her business card, she had 10 different cancers under her name. And I said, I don't mean any disrespect. I said, but you're not a specialist. And I'm going to see a specialist. I obviously need someone who deals in just colorectal cancer and someone who sees the toughest cases every day. I don't want to go to the doctor that sees one tough case once a year. I want to go to someone who sees the toughest cases every single day. So I was, very freaked out. This was all going on right at the beginning of my school year. So right at the beginning of the school year, I wasn't there. The very first week of school, I was not there. My principal was not happy. At first, she wasn't happy because she just thought it was, I needed, a routine exam. And I'm like, something tells me this isn't routine. And I said, I have to go. I have to figure this out. And so, of course, like when she found out, she felt guilty. She was like, oh my gosh, like I really tried to stop you from going and you really needed to go. Um, so when I went to MD Anderson, MD Anderson does all of their own scans. They will not take any tests from any other hospital. So they did their CT scan, they did a PET scan, they did an MRI, they did an echocardiogram. Just, they want to check your heart, make sure everything's okay. And then I had a biopsy scheduled as well, because at that point we weren't sure exactly what stage. We didn't know if there was lymph node involvement. We didn't know if it had metastasized. So I was in an OR room getting prepped for a biopsy, and they said, nope, stop now. We can already tell. The radiologist read the report. It has metastasized to her ovary. She's stage 4. It's not going to matter. Like, it's not going to matter. We need her out. We need her to start treatments immediately. Um, the surgeon that I saw, he was amazing. He pulled down a chart of the anatomy of the body, and I was double sided. So I had a tumor on my right side and on my left side. So technically, I was colorectal. I was colon and I was rectal. And they do tumor boards, where they discuss the cases. And so they wanted to know which one was the primary tumor. I think they were trying to figure out with the metastasis, where did it come from? Did it come from the colon, or did it come from the rectal? And where was my spreading going to be? Because it was just not the typical metastasis for a CRC patient. It's just not, what you normally see. I did all the testing. I did the genetic testing, and it's not in my family. I don't have FAP. I don't have Lynch. I have none of those. And literally, the fellow who did that, who discussed that with me, she was just like, I don't know what to tell you other than you have really bad luck. She's like, we can't find any reason. And then, you do everything that you can. And so the surgeon was like, well, I'm going to cut here. I'm going to cut here. We're going to resect it. He's like, you're going to have a bag, but don't worry about it. I'm going to be able to reverse it. We're going to do chemo. We're going to shrink it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I'm like, well, this is the guy I want. I want this guy because at least he's giving me some hope. He's not giving me a timeline of you've got X amount of years to live. Um, and, I just felt so much better with my team there completely. And then I met with my oncologist after that. And my oncologist was like, no, you need to be in the chemo chair this week. He's like, we don't have time for report. There's no time for any of that, which, still, I wasn't trying, I was still trying to process it all. So they immediately, within 2 days, put a PICC line in my arm, and I was in the chemo chair that night. So I would get chemo Friday nights, and then I would infuse Saturday, Sunday. So my chemo regimen was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that I could continue working. I would leave work a little bit early on Friday, and I would end up getting home at like 11. And then I would, have treatment Saturday, Sunday, and then drop the pump back off Sunday night. And I worked through all of that. So I had 6 months of FOLFOX at that time. And I just took every precaution I could. I mean, FOLFOX is very tough. It's not an easy chemo. It's a very tough chemo. But it did its job for me. Cold sensitivity is, a huge thing. So I wore gloves. I wore gloves all the time. I wore gloves to school because I would just forget. You would, go to grab something from the fridge and you would just forget. And so I just always had gloves on because, if I would forget, I would drop something and break it because, it feels like, shards of glass. It's just a horrible feeling. So that was one of the major things. I did have a lot of nausea with FOLFOX. I got down to about 84 pounds on that chemo. So I looked sick on that one for sure. I lost a lot of weight. They did put me on weight gainer shakes at one point, like prescription strength weight gainer shakes. I know other people, drink Ensure and things like that, but there is another step even above that that will help you put weight back on. I didn't lose all of my hair because I have a ton of hair. And so I had normal hair for once. I just, I lost half of it. It did just, start falling out. And, it was upsetting because I assumed I was going to lose it all, but I didn't. I lost about half, which, was good. And then the other thing is you're just tired. So, being a school teacher, I had 27, 28 kids that depended on me all day long. So I would get super tired. And if I would sit down and they would kind of see like, my facial expressions of, about to like literally close my eyes, they knew to go and get another teacher to go get help to come into the classroom because like at some point, the chemo, it's accumulation effect. So even if in the beginning it doesn't seem so bad, by the end, a little bit is still left in your body. So it keeps building and keeps building and keeps building on itself. And so by the end, it's a lot. I mean, and so I could barely stay awake. So I had neuropathy in my hands and feet. And I can remember the first time it happened in my feet, I was I was for some reason I must have had people staying at my place, but I was laying on an air mattress and I went to get up and completely fell. Like I couldn't even use my feet. Like I just wiped out completely and I wasn't prepared for that at all. And also it's, all that stuff gets painful too. Cancer is very painful. At one point, they did put me in a wheelchair because I had a tumor that was pressing on a nerve in my spine. And so that was rough because their suggestion for that, because nothing they gave me really touched the pain at all. So they wanted to do a nerve block. And so when they do a nerve block on you, they put you in a little I don't even know what the name of it is, but it looks like a CT scan, but it's like a small circle. Excuse me. And they do that so that they can see where they're putting the needle in your spine and it guides them. But that in itself, like that saved me. I got up out of the wheelchair, was able to walk. That got me all the way through to surgery. And also chemo was shrinking everything too. So I don't know if it was just the nerve block or the chemo that was shrinking everything. So then I went in for a 12-hour surgery. And when I came out of surgery, or when the doctors came out to talk to my family and friends that were waiting, they did admit to my family that they really thought they were going to open me up and not be able to help me. They anticipated finding so much cancer inside of me that I was going to be an open and closed case. I put complete faith in my doctors and I really didn't ask a ton of questions, whereas a lot of people ask a ton of questions, and I really didn't because I loved my team and I have a very strong faith as well. So between my faith and my team, I kind of just, it was out of my hands. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. My surgeon, and then there was one other surgeon who I knew very well on my team. He's another fantastic doctor at MD Anderson, and he had spoken to me at length about my surgery. Said so he ended up actually doing the hysterectomy part of my surgery, even though that's not his, it's not his forte, it's not what he does, but he was in there with the team as well. Yeah, so the amount of people that were in there was just incredible. There were tons of people in there, and it was a 12-hour surgery, which I had no idea it was going to be 12 hours, nor did they, because they thought I was going to be open and closed. So they weren't really prepared for a 12-hour surgery. But it was. So they were able to get everything. And I did have, I think I had 14 positive lymph nodes. as well as the metastasis to the ovary. And, they could have just taken the one ovary, but, we had discussed it and just said, well, since this seems to be like your progression and yours is going downward for whatever reason, they're like, we're just going to take it all out. And at that point, I was 40 years old. I was like, okay, just, take it all out. Like, I don't care. Get rid of it. Get it all out of me. I don't, want to deal with this. So, I was very, very lucky that they were my doctors for sure. So then when I was told that it was completely gone, obviously that's a relief. You feel like, okay, so I made it through the 6 months of chemo, and now this. And thank God I'm still here because my first opinion told me I wasn't going to make it this far. But there was no room on the colorectal floor. If that can tell you anything, their floor was completely full. They had no room for me. That's how much colon cancer is on the rise in younger adults. So that whole floor was full. So I ended up on a cardiac floor and they knew nothing about ostomies. Even though they were nurses, they were like, what in the world is this? We don't know what to do with this. We don't know how to change this. Like, I'm like, well, if you don't know how to change it, how am I supposed to go home and change it myself? Like, like I don't know this either. Like, this is crazy. But when I was in the hospital, so I will say I was pretty like vain. I had my cordless flat iron with me and I would flat iron my hair every morning and I would put a sparkly headband on and put some makeup on and I would go for walks. And they would all laugh at me. And I was like, no, I need this because I need to feel like me. And this gives me a little bit of sense of getting back to who I am. And it's giving me strength to get up out of bed and walk. But then when they told me no maintenance chemo, that was a little bit of a tough pill to swallow because you feel like chemo is your safety net. And I felt like something was being pulled away from me because in listening to other patients, I knew that a lot of patients get put on stage 4 specifically, they get put on maintenance chemo. And I'm like, well, what do you mean I'm not getting put on something to prevent it from coming back? Like, how am I supposed to prevent it from coming back if you're taking this away? So, like, even though it's great, you're Ned, it's still not easy. Like, it's wonderful, but it's still not easy in any shape or the matter, at all. Any little feeling you think, like, oh gosh, what was that feeling? Like, okay, the cancer's back. Like every little feeling that I felt was going to be cancer, no matter what. When you know you're stage 4, it's different. It's not stage 1 or stage 2, and I'm not making light. Any cancer is terrible, but stage 4, we don't have good stats, as far as recurrences and things like that. And so I felt like I needed something to help protect me. And so I researched every kind of holistic treatment there was, anything I could do. I did any foods I could eat, any, supplements I could take. I did it all because I felt like I've got to do something. They're not giving me chemo. So I'm getting the Cooking for Cancer book. I am getting, these supplements and I'm taking 20 supplements a day to prevent all of this. I'm making sure I'm working out. I'm making sure I'm doing all the things that, are keeping me alive and healthy. And that was another thing too that was really important to me was um, keeping active. I worked out all through treatment and I would put my chemo pump in a backpack and I would go to the gym. This is probably what's helped me too is staying strong and staying active. Unfortunately, it's growing. The waiting room is no longer, you think of colorectal cancer and you think the waiting room is going to be all full of older men. And it's not anymore. It's, different races, different, it's men, it's women, it's young, it's old, it's kids, it's everyone now. I mean, so that means by 30, I was developing colorectal cancer. So nobody thinks of someone who eats well and goes to the gym every day and, didn't eat a lot of red meat, didn't eat a lot of processed foods, so all these things that people try and tell you cause cancer or sugar or whatever it might be. I didn't do those things, so, that was another thing. There was never any blood. So just because, yeah, just because you're not seeing blood doesn't mean you're, you're okay. It doesn't, or does it mean, oh, it's just stage one, or, it's an early, we've caught it early. Like, you have to know what you're going through yourself. You have to know the disease. You have to educate yourself. And yes, doctors are wonderful, but you are one patient out of many, many patients.